Hello everyone, today we are going to discuss about diseases of the lacrimal apparatus. So coming to the anatomy of the lacrimal apparatus, you have in the lacrimal apparatus comprises of the lacrimal gland. In the lacrimal gland you have a orbital part and a palpebral part, and which drains via the lacrimal duct into the conjunctival fornices, and from there the tears are collected by they pass through the punctum, which are openings for the lacrimal canaliculi. Then they pass into the lacrimal canaliculi and drain into the lacrimal sac, and which finally drains into the inferior meatus of the nasal cavity. This lacrimal sac has valves like valves of Cross and valves of Hasner. You will understand the significance of these valves when I deal with them in the later part of this presentation. So coming to the lacrimal pump mechanism, tears which are secreted collect close to the medial canthus of the eye, and when you close the lid there is a contraction of the orbicularis oculi. This creates a negative pressure within the sac which draws the tears into the lacrimal sac, and when you open the eyes these tears tend to get drained into the nasal cavity by gravitational force. So what is dacryocystitis? Dacryocystitis is nothing but inflammation of the lacrimal sac, which is usually secondary to obstruction of your nasolacrimal duct. Remember, dacryocystitis is inflammation of the lacrimal sac, and dacryoadenitis is inflammation of your lacrimal gland. So the two are different, and should be able to identify the things. And what are the types? The types can be based either on onset or on duration. Onset, it can be congenital or acquired, and duration, it can be acute or chronic. What is the etiology? Congenital, it is usually due to an obstruction at the level of the Hasner's valve, and acquired, it could be due to involutional. Involutional is nothing but aging and trauma, especially your nasoethmoidal fractures, surgeries, endonasal surgeries, tumors of the lacrimal sac, and medications like pilocarpine, timolol, all those things can lead to obstruction of your nasolacrimal duct. Duration, acute dacryocystitis usually lasts less than 3 months. The inflammation tends to be severe, and also it will respond to antibiotics. What are the common organisms which are going to cause acute dacryocystitis? Staph epidermidis, Staph aureus, Pneumococcus, Pseudomonas are some of the commonest organisms which cause your acute dacryocystitis. Chronic dacryocystitis, you have a duration which is greater than 3 months. The inflammation tends to be less severe, but you have to go for a surgical intervention for chronic dacryocystitis. What is acute dacryocystitis? It's nothing but an acute suppurative inflammation of the lacrimal sac associated with swelling in the medial aspect of the orbit. So this is a picture of acute dacryocystitis. You are able to see the erythematous enlarged sac here with the pus pointing. So what is the etiology? Usually an acute dacryocystitis is nothing but an exacerbation of a chronic case, or it could be an acute peridacryocystitis due to involvement of infection coming from the paranasal sinuses, bones, or dental abscess or caries tooth. What are the symptoms? You have a red painful swelling associated with watering of eyes or epiphora, and constitutional symptoms like fever can also be there. What are the stages? You have a stage of cellulitis, you have a stage of lacrimal abscess, and stage of fistula formation. So what happens in the stage of cellulitis? In the stage of cellulitis, the swelling is a hot, red, firm and tender swelling will be there, associated with redness and edema of the lids as well as the cheek, and treatment of the lesion will lead to resolution of the symptoms and relief. So coming to the stage of lacrimal abscess, here there is occlusion of the canaliculi due to edema. The sac gets distended with pus leading to a pericystic swelling, and a large fluctuant swelling will be present in a case lacrimal abscess develops. And finally, the stage of fistula formation. If the abscess is not treated adequately, the abscess will have a tendency to discharge by forming either an external fistula which opens below the medial palpebral ligament, or an internal fistula which will open into the nasal cavity. So this is a fistula formation picture. So what are the complications? So you can have acute conjunctivitis, you can have corneal ulcer, you can have lid abscess, you can have orbital cellulitis, facial cellulitis, cavernous sinus thrombosis or septicemia. Cavernous sinus thrombosis and septicemia particularly life-threatening lesions. So you should not allow it to go into that stage. So how do you treat cellulitis? In the stage of cellulitis, you can give hot fomentation, you can give oral and topical antibiotics, especially your broad spectrum antibiotics like gefloxacin, moxifloxacin, all those things can be given. Eye drops can be given, and oral antibiotics can be given based on culture and sensitivity also if needed. Analgesics and anti-inflammatory drugs can be given to control the inflammation. When it goes to the stage of lacrimal abscess, you have no other option but to do an incision and drainage, and this can be done followed by a dacryocysto-rhinostomy or a dacryocystectomy. Suppose it has gone to the fistula stage, you have to do a fistulectomy with the DCT or a DCR. Sometimes when you do a DCR, that is when you are bypassing the normal lacrimal passages, the fistula can have a tendency to go for a closure, or sometimes it may go for spontaneous closure as well. So this is a picture of a lacrimal fistula. You can see the very small tiny opening here which will tend to discharge tears or a pus or anything can come out of that. So next is the stage of chronic dacryocystitis. So the predisposing factors are an age of 40 to 60 years. In females especially, they'll have a narrow lumen, and rays, it is common among Negroes, and it's common in females because they have a narrow bony canal. And race, it's common among Negroes, and a low socioeconomic status and poor personal hygiene will predispose to chronic dacryocystitis. What are the factors for stasis of tears? Anatomical factors are narrow bony canal or the partial canalization of the nasolacrimal duct, presence of foreign bodies in the sac, and excessive lacrimation, which may be either primary or reflex, can lead to stasis of tears. Recurrent conjunctivitis, as well as obstruction of the lower end of the nasolacrimal duct. The lower end of the nasolacrimal duct can get obstructed due to polyps, hypertrophied inferior turbinate, deviated nasal septum, or because of atrophic rhinitis, which causes stenosis of the lower end of the nasolacrimal duct. All these things will lead to obstruction of your nasolacrimal duct, and there will be stasis of tears, which will get infected in course of time, leading to a chronic dacryocystitis. So what are the source of infection? The lacrimal sac may get infected from the conjunctiva. It can be get infected from the nasal cavity or paranasal sinuses by way of a retrograde spread. Coming to the etiology, the bacteria commonly involved are Staph epidermidis, Staph aureus, Streptococcus, Pneumococcus, Haemophilus influenzae, and Pseudomonas. Or it could be due to granulomatous diseases like tuberculosis, syphilis, leprosy, or rhinospodiosis. Rhinospodiosis is an infection which is acquired by bathing in contaminated waters of your lake, pond, etc. So what are the stages? So you have the stage of chronic catarrhal dacryocystitis, the stage of lacrimal mucocele, stage of chronic suppurative dacryocystitis or pyocele, and stage of chronic fibrotic sac. So in the stage of chronic catarrhal dacryocystitis, there is a mild inflammation of the sac with blockage of your nasolacrimal duct. The symptoms predominantly will be redness and watering from the eyes. So if you do a syringing, you will get a regurgitation of a clear fluid, or a few fibrinous flakes can be seen. Dacryocystography will confirm that there is a blockage at the level of the nasolacrimal duct. Next we move on to the stage of lacrimal mucocele. Here there is a chronic stagnation with distension of the sac occurs, and there will be constant epiphora with the swelling below the inner canthus. When you do a syringing, you will have regurgitation of milky or gelatinous mucoid fluid on pressure. When you do either the Roplast test or syringing, you can get this. So dacryocytography shows a distended sac with the blocked nasolacrimal. So what happens in the stage of encysted mucocele? Because of chronic infection, what happens is the openings of both the canaliculi tend to get blocked, and a large fluctuant swelling is formed. And even if you give pressure over the sac, it's going to be negative because both the ducts are blocked. Both the openings are blocked, so you're not going to get anything on pressing over the sac. So coming to the stage of chronic suppurative dacryocystitis. So this is a pyogenic infection. You can get a mucoid discharge or a mucopurulent discharge. It's called as a pyocele. And There will be constant epiphora will be there, and recurrent conjunctivitis can also occur. So there will be swelling in the inner canthus with mild erythema. When you give a pressure on the sac or you do syringing, you will get regurgitation of a frank purulent discharge will be there. Coming to the stage of chronic fibrotic sac, low grade repeated infection occurs. When low grade repeated infection occurs, what happens is the sac tends to become more fibrotic because of thickening of the mucosa. There's constant epiphora and discharge. As with other stages, if we do a dacryocystography, you can find a small sac with irregular folds of mucosa. What are the investigations you will do? Rho plus nothing but regurgitation on pressure over the lacrimal sac region. Apply pressure with your finger over the medial palpebral ligament and you can see the regurgitation, and based on that you will be able to infer. And other test that you can do is lacrimal syringing. You can dilate the punctum with a lacrimal dilator, and then a cannula is inserted in this punctum and sterile saline is also injected. So if there is a partial obstruction, the saline will pass on pressure. If there is a reflex through the same punctum, this means there is an obstruction at the level of the same canaliculus. So if there is a reflex through the opposite punctum, so the reflex can be either through the same punctum. If it is a reflex through the same punctum, it means the obstruction is at the level of the same canaliculus through which you are passing that through which you are syringing. If the reflex is through the opposite punctum and if it comes immediately and it's clear fluid, probably the obstruction is at the level of the common canaliculus. And if after some time you are getting a purulent or a mucopurulent fluid, then the obstruction is in the lower sac or nasolacrimal duct, for which you can do nothing but so if you are getting a regurgitation after some time for mucopurulent or purulent fluid, then there is an obstruction in the level of the lower lacrimal sac or nasolacrimal duct. Jones test. Jones Diet test is useful in case of a suspected partial obstruction. It is of no use in a case of a total obstruction. And Jones test 1 is there and Jones test 2 is there. So in Jones Diet test 1, you are instilling fluorescein either by using a sterile strip or an fluorescein drop can be installed into the conjunctival sac, and you keep a swab at the level of the nose in the inferior meatus. If your swab gets stained, or if your cotton bud, you keep a cotton bud there. If the cotton bud gets stained, then it is Jones dye test is positive. If there is no staining of the cotton bud which is kept in the nose, then Jones dye test is negative. And then you do the Jones dye test 2. Okay. So in Jones dye test 2, what you do is you do a syringing of the searching through the canaliculus, and if the swab, which is the cotton bud which is kept in the nose, becomes stained, then it indicates that there is a functional obstruction or there is a failure of the pump mechanism. And in spite of syringing, if you are not going to get the cotton bud does not get stained, that implies that Jones dye test is negative. So there is some obstruction which is responsible for the dye not appearing in the nose. So moving on to dacryocystography. This is a definitive test to assess the anatomy of the lacrimal drainage. So you irrigate the nasolacrimal system with a radio-opaque dye. Through the radio-opaque dye is instilled and it passes through the puncta and it appears in the sac, and an X-ray is taken after that, and this helps you to know about the mucosa of the sac, what is the exact site of the block and what is the nature and extent of the block, and also it can also pick up whether you've got any diverticular, fistula, all those things. So this is a case of conventional dacryocystography where there is a complete obstruction of the lacrimal sac at the level of the valve of Krause. So left side it is normal. So you could do a digital subtraction macro dacryocystography. Use a non-invasive radioactive tracer like sulfur colloid or technetium which is instilled into the conjunctival sac, and then you film it using a Anger gamma camera. What are the complications? Chronic conjunctivitis, ectropion of the lower lid can occur because of profuse watering. There will be eczema of the lower eyelid, and this can be associated with scarring and ectropion. Corneal erosions can occur, corneal ulcer can occur, and also there is a high risk of endophthalmitis. Coming to the treatment, conservative management can be done by doing repeated lacrimal syringing. So when this fails, when repeated lacrimal syringing fails to open up your lacrimal passages, then you can go for a surgical modality like DCR, dacryocysto-rhinostomy, which will re-establish the lacrimal drainage, or DCT, dacryocystectomy, where you are removing the lacrimal sac as a whole. So when DCR is contraindicated, you have to do a dacryocystectomy. You can also do a conjunctivo-dacryocysto-rhinostomy. This is done in cases where your canaliculi is blocked. So this is DCR, and you can see that there is a opening which is created in the lacrimal bone, and the mucosa of the lacrimal sac is anastomosed with that of the nasal mucosa, thereby bypassing the nasolacrimal duct, and the fluid gets drained into the inferior meatus. This tears will actually bypass the nasolacrimal duct and drain directly into the nasal cavity. So you can see the incision, sutured incision of an external DCR here. So in endonasal DCR, you are using an endoscope and a diamond burr to break open the bone and anastomose between the lacrimal sac and the nasal mucosa, lacrimal sac mucosa and the nasal mucosa. So what are the contraindications for dacryocysto-rhinostomy, or what are the indications for dacryocystectomy will be in age less than 4 years or greater than 60 years. If it's a shrunken and fibrous sac, you're not likely to get much success with DCR. Or if you're having tuberculosis, syphilis, leprosy, or mycotic infections, any tumors of the sac, nasal diseases such as atrophic rhinitis are some of the contraindications for doing a dacryocysto-rhinostomy. Congenital dacryocystitis is nothing but inflammation of the sac in newborn infants. It's also called as dacryocystitis neonatorum. So the etiology, there is a congenital blockage of the nasolacrimal duct. It is usually a membranous occlusion at the level of the Hasner's valve. Others, there can be an epithelial debris which is blocking the drainage of the nasolacrimal duct. There can be a complete these are not the causes, and you can also have complete non-canalization, non-epithelialization of the complete non-canalization of the nasolacrimal duct, or there can be a bony occlusion of the nasolacrimal duct. Coming to the clinical features, you will have epiphora. There will be a copious mucopurulent discharge. Regurgitation test is positive. When you give pressure over the lacrimal sac region, you will get a mucopurulent discharge coming out. There will be swelling in the lacrimal sac region. So differential diagnosis of congenital dacryocystitis is ophthalmia neonatorum or congenital glaucoma. Both are associated with ophthalmia neonatorum will be associated with discharge, watering. Congenital glaucoma also, you will have a photophobia. The child will not be able to face light. You will have large corneas or megalocornea. The cornea may be steamy or hazy, as well as there will be epiphora. All those things, that is reflex watering there. So this forms a differential diagnosis. Coming to the complications, you can have recurrent conjunctivitis, lacrimal abscess formation, or fistula formation can occur. So treatment is, it is very important that once you recognize this, that there is a congenital dacryocystitis, you have to give the child topical antibiotic eye drops and do a massage. This massage, you can do it with your thumb, and it should be done from the medial to the, in a downward stroke. You have to do it medially towards the nose, and if it is done 4 times a day, if you do it repeatedly, if there is a membrane or something, it can just it may break, or the epithelial debris, if it is present, can get cleared off, so that most of the children will get relieved when if you do a proper massaging itself. And those kids who are not improving with massage, you can go for examination under anesthesia to find out what is the problem, why the you having congenital dacryocystitis. You can do a syringing in that cases, and also probing of the nasolacrimal duct is done. This is usually done at the age of 1 year if there has been no improvement with massage. And if there is a problem, then you can do an intubation with the silicone tube. Silicone tube can be done to allow drainage of the tears, and a dacryocysto-rhinostomy can be done after 4 years of age, because the facial bones have to develop well. So this is a picture of congenital dacryocystitis. Now we move on to lacrimal gland tumors. So there is a resemblance to a parotid gland tumor. The commonest is a pleomorphic adenoma, similar to a parotid gland. You have two types of tumors, epithelial and non-epithelial. Epithelial, again you have got benign and malignant tumors. With the benign variety you have pleomorphic adenoma. Malignant variety you have adenoid cystic carcinoma. Non-epithelial tumors, lymphoma is the commonest one. So you can see the pleomorphic adenoma, which is causing a swelling as well as a ptosis of the upper eyelid. See the myxomatous material. So lacrimal tumors can be classified into benign and malignant. Benign is common in the middle age. It has got a slow progression. It's usually presenting as a painless swelling with proptosis. There is no invasion of the adjacent bone, and surgical excision will be the treatment of choice. Malignant tumors, it's common in elderly people, rapidly progresses, and it is usually painful. You can note bone invasion or calcification can be seen. You can do a biopsy, confirm that it is malignant, then you have to go for a radical surgical removal of the lesion. It's called as exenteration, where you will remove the entire eye contents along with the periorbita. So this is adenoid cystic carcinoma, and see, this is an exenterated orbit, and a prosthesis has been applied. See how well they made the prosthesis, and it has been applied.